Today we're going to talk about paying for college. My name is Mike Gawel. I'm a financial aid facilitator here at Fox Valley Tech. So what that means is all day, every day, all I do is financial aid applications. I help students and their families fill out the application. I help you turn in any verification documents you might have been chosen for, things along those lines. So if you have financial aid questions as far as filling out that FAFSA stuff, I'm the one you want to talk to. Down here is my contact information. You can also stop in our office and talk to anybody else in there. Everyone in there is very well versed with this particular subject. So all right, so why is everyone here today? Financial aid can be a confusing thing for some folks, as this kind of comic explains it. It's not as difficult as a lot of folks think, but for many, it can look like a foreign language or advanced economics class, like the comic here says. So now that you've decided where you want to go to school, whether it be here or wherever, hopefully here, but you're going to want to figure out what the costs are to go to school. So first and foremost is going to be your tuition and fees. This is going to be the amount of money that each one of your classes cost with their materials, things like that. Your books and supplies, it's going to vary, based on how many credits and things you're in. Your room and board, this will vary based on if you're going to live on campus or off campus, or if you're going to live with your parents. All right, these are the three options that pop up on the FAFSA application as to where you're going to live. Transportation and personal expenses, they do accumulate for a little bit of money as far as that goes. Those are state mandated numbers that come from the Department of Education. What this does is this gives you what's called your cost of attendance. So the cost of attendance is the overall cost for you to attend school at that college of your choice for 1 year. So this is just a breakdown of Fox Valley Tech in 2019, 2020, your cost of attendance. This is based off of a 15 credit load. That is a little more than full-time for most. 12 credits is considered full-time for financial aid purposes. So you have, as I said, this is the only major big difference right here is going to be your room and your board. So with the parent, obviously, mom and dad are paying rent, so they don't figure that they need to account for you paying rent if mom and dad already are. So that's really the only number that's going to change in your cost of attendance. Otherwise, those are going to stay the same no matter what. They'll vary a little bit based off of the school you decide you want to go to, but for the most part, those numbers are going to stay the same. So first and foremost is you want to figure out your different ways to pay for school. All right, so your first one is going to be scholarships. Has everybody here filled out at least one scholarship? Doesn't matter if you're a high school senior or returning adult, there is literally a scholarship out there for everyone. I've seen scholarships for folks that are left-handed, and I've seen scholarships for people that like to ride horses. All right, there's literally a scholarship for everyone. It's just a matter of you taking the time to fill out those applications. All right, so with the scholarships, guidance offices, your high schools are going to be great resources. They're going to know a lot of the local foundations that you can get in touch with, local organizations that are looking to give out those scholarships, things like that. Next is going to be your foundation office. Here at Fox Valley Tech, we have a scholarship that opens up, I believe it opened last week. And when you fill that out, it's one application. It takes about 15-20 minutes to fill out. And what it does is it puts you in for about 300 different scholarships that we have. So it takes you and compares you to our list of all the scholarships we offer and says, okay, well, hey, these are the best ones for you. And then they'll determine which ones you could or could not be eligible for. I've seen some students get more than one, but usually there's plenty of scholarships out there. Parental affiliations, this is going to be like if mom and dad work for a company that maybe do tuition reimbursement from work, if mom and dad are part of the Lions Club or the Elks Club, something like that. A lot of those organizations do offer scholarships or tuition reimbursement for members or workers. Veterans education benefits. Is anyone in here a veteran or mom and dad's veteran? Okay, so I don't know if you guys have had a chance to stop down at our Veterans Education office. I would highly recommend it though. Veterans education benefits is something that could be available to your children based off of, I'm not an expert on it by any means, but like your disability rating, your time in service, the amount of, whether you were active duty, National Guard, things like that. So it's something that it doesn't hurt to check into. Lots of different options there, so I would definitely make sure you guys are talking to the Veterans Education Office if that is something that might pertain to you. AmeriCorps, this is an outside organization that can help with different situations where perhaps the parents aren't in the situation, low income, things like that. Payment plans. We offer payment plans after our enrollment dates. So once you enroll in your next semester of classes, which I believe enrollment opens, I think, the end of October here. So once you enroll in your classes, you'll get your essentially the cost of your classes for this next semester. We open payment plans about a month, 2 months after enrollment is over, and then you can get on those payment plans. You do pay 25% down, but then the sooner you're on that payment plan, the more payments you have to pay the rest of it off. So you might have to pay 25% down, but then you have the rest of it split over the next 4 or 5 months, versus if you wait until 2 months before you're done with the semester, now you're going to make a really big payment and then 2 more big payments. So the sooner you get on those payment plans, the better it is for you. There is a small $25 origination fee with our payment plans. But it's just like borrowing money anywhere else, except for you're not borrowing the money. We're kind of holding off on charging you for it, so to speak. Savings, so your 529 plans. Does anybody here have a 529 or educational savings plan? No? If you do, you just want to make sure you're in touch with whoever it is that's handling your 529 plan, just to make sure what is and is not considered an educational expense. Some companies will consider a laptop an educational expense, while others will not. So just make sure you're in touch with them to see, you know, what they consider those educational expenses and then how they do their billing. Do they bill the school directly, or do you have to pay up front, get reimbursed, things like that? Financial aid. So this is going to be your FAFSA application. It doesn't matter who you are. Everyone and anyone should fill out the FAFSA application. The FAFSA application takes about 30 to 45 minutes to complete, and what it does is it puts you in for grants, loans, and work study. All right, so grants are free money you never have to pay back if you're eligible for them. It's essentially the government giving you a chunk of money saying, hey, we want to see you make something of yourself. Here you go. So the student loans, those are going to be 2 different types. We'll touch on those in a little bit, but these are going to be federal loans, so they're going to have a lot of great benefits that go along with it. Your work study opportunities. So here at Fox Valley Tech, I know we have over 100 different jobs you can do. So what work study is it's the opportunity for you to work for the college and get paid while you're attending school. You can do anything from IT, you can work in our security office, you can work on our grounds crew, you can work in our kitchen. Lots of different opportunities. Nice part about it is you get paid $10 an hour, and they work around your class schedule. So if you have class in the morning and say you have a 4-hour break in between your classes, you could get paid to work for that 4 hours rather than going back to your dorm room or sitting on your butt playing Xbox, all right? With that money, it comes as a bi-weekly paycheck. What they do is they pay you every 2 weeks, and then that check is yours to use for whatever you need to help you succeed while you're in school, whether it be gas, groceries, anything along those lines. Private loans, this is going to be another option. We highly recommend that you guys check out the federal loans and the Parent Plus loans before you go to these private organizations. The reason that we say this is private loans are going to have much higher interest rates usually. They aren't going to have the same kind of repayment options, and some of them, not all of them, can be put into what's called deferment, which is like a section or a time period where you don't have to make payments because of you being in school. So with those private loans, you are the only one that knows what's best for your financial situation. So just make sure you guys are shopping around with those, looking at the different, interest rates, whether it's variable, whether it's fixed, that type of stuff. The parent loan, this is what's called a Parent Plus loan. This is an additional loan you can get on top of the FAFSA application. And what it is it's a federal loan that the parent essentially is co-signing for. All right. So you can request up to that cost of attendance. So that cost of attendance that we discussed at the beginning, you can request up to the cost of attendance for the year. It is a additional loan on top of the FAFSA application. Mom and dad are going to fill out a application online, and you do have to complete what's called a master promissory note. A master promissory note is just essentially you giving 2 references to the federal government so that if for some reason you decide not to make payments, who can they talk to try to get a hold of you and work something out. That does not go to the school, that master promissory note. That's the federal government's guidelines. So with that, apprenticeships, if you are interested in getting into the trades, so if you want to be a plumber or a welder or an electrician, anything along like that, we do have an amazing apprenticeship program, and they have lots of different options along those lines. I'm not an expert on them by any means, but with those apprenticeships, sometimes you can get an employer that'll hire you up front, send you to school, and then you just work for them afterwards, and they pay for everything as long as you sign a contract to work for them for X amount of time. So we do have apprenticeships. I believe they are in the cafeteria or the commons area if you would like to go check those out after this. Also, if anyone is Native American, we do have a tribal representative. So if you are eligible to get any kind of grants from your tribe, those payments would be handled through our financial aid office. So if you have questions or concerns, you can stop down at our financial aid table, and we've been more than happy to talk to you about them. So the FAFSA application, this is what their website looks like. Has anybody in here done the FAFSA before? Okay, so if you've done a FAFSA in the past, if this doesn't look familiar to you, they did just redo their website about a year ago. So just be cognizant that when you guys go to these websites to do this stuff, it is a free application, okay? So if you ever get told you have to pay money to apply for financial aid, you don't go to that website. Go back out, try it again. This is what their website looks like, and again, it is a free website. So why should you complete the FAFSA? So by completing the FAFSA, again, you're applying for those grants, those work studies, and those loan opportunities. Plus, it does also put you in for any state and localized grants that may be available to you. All right? So FAFSA information may also be used for institutional aid, which is going to be if the institution you're deciding to go to has any additional funding, say from an alumni office or a foundation office, that they may be able to give out additional scholarships or additional grants that you could be eligible for. And again, scholarships. It's not a requirement for all scholarships, but there are some scholarships out there that will not look at your application until you complete the FAFSA, because essentially they look at it as, if you're willing to take our free money, why aren't you willing to take the government's free money? So FAFSA application does have to be done once a year. It opens on October 1st every year. So if you are looking to attend school next fall, that application did open on the 1st of this month. The expected family contribution is the main reason why we complete the FAFSA application. What it is it's an index number that determines how much financial aid you need. So what they do is they take your EFC, which is going to come from your income, your assets, your family size, and the number of students that are in college in your household. What they do is they take that EFC and they minus it out of your cost of attendance, which is that number we talked about in the beginning. And that gives you what's called your financial need. So again, we take your cost of attendance, which is determined by your school, and then we minus out that expected family contribution, which is determined by the FAFSA application and the federal government, and that gives us your financial need. With that financial need, that's how we determine how much say grant money, how much loan money, how much of that institutional aid, and those additional scholarships and things that could potentially be eligible for. So financial aid is going to vary based on the school you're deciding to attend to. So as you can see, we have School A, School B, and School C. The cost of attendance is going to be drastically different for each one, but that expected family contribution is going to stay the same no matter what school you're going to. So the only thing that's going to really change is that that financial need. Now, your amount of money that you're going to get from the federal government is going to stay the same no matter what school you're going to. But when you get into some of these more expensive schools, the private schools, things like that, that's where we get into that institutional aid and some of those scholarships that we were talking about. They have those bigger alumni offices and they have those bigger foundations that they can give out those additional funds. So just because it seems like it costs more to go to those other schools doesn't mean it's necessarily out of reach. All right. So the federal student loans, when you fill out the FAFSA application, federal student loans are sometimes split into two different types. So there's one called a subsidized and one called an unsubsidized. The difference between the two is a subsidized loan does not accumulate any interest while you're attending school. A subsidized or unsubsidized loan does accumulate interest the day you get the money. Nice parts about these loans is you do not have to pay them back until 6 months after you graduate from college. So as long as you maintain 6 credits of learning, doesn't matter if you're in school for 2 years or 10 years, you do not have to pay them back until 6 months after you graduate. But you do have to maintain 6 credits in a financial aid eligible program. All right. Also, they're going to be lower interest rates than if you were to go to those private banks, just like I said before. So I believe the federal loans are somewhere around 4.5% last year. I've seen them up to 6%. It does fluctuate with the market, but it is usually a set number each year. The credit score is not required for the FAFSA application. So for all of you that are right out of high school, it does not matter if you don't have credit history. You're going to be eligible for financial aid no matter what. We get a lot of folks that come in and say, oh, no, I'm not going to be eligible for financial aid. You know, my parents make too much money, this, that, and whatever. Everyone should get some form of financial aid. Now, you might not get the grant money, which is that free money we discussed, but everyone should get those student loans in some way, shape, or form. Just because you're offered it does not mean you have to accept it. So if you are offered student loans and you don't want them, you are by no means obligated to take them. And there is no penalty if you apply 1 year and don't use them that year. All right. Also, there is no cosigner required for the FAFSA application. Everything that comes from the FAFSA application is strictly the student's responsibility. So if the student gets any loans off of the FAFSA application, they are the student's responsibility to pay them back, not the parents. The only time that the parent would get involved is if you're going to take out a private loan through a private bank, or if you guys do decide to go along the lines of those Parent Plus loans, all right? So for a first-time dependent student, you are going to be offered roughly right around $5,500. And like I said, it is usually split into two categories. Sometimes it is not, depending on the amount of income that the family has. Sometimes you will not be eligible for that subsidized loan. Sometimes it'll only be that unsubsidized. If you are eligible for that subsidized loan, the maximum amount you would get for your first year would be $3,500 of subsidized loan. For an independent student, that number goes up to $95,000, but that subsidized loan does stay at $3,500 for an independent student. The reason that these are there is because we do have lifetime limits on the amount of money that the government will give you to attend school. That's why I said I've only ever seen about 2 people ever get denied financial aid, and that's because they were in school for 8 years, and the government finally kind of said, hey guys, it's time to do something else. So, with your second year, so in your second year of school, that amount of loans that they will give you does go up by another $1,000. So for dependent students, it goes to $6,500, and then for independent, it does go to $10,005. Again, it would be split if you're eligible for it. It goes up to $4,500 for the subsidized, and then the unsubsidized would take up the rest of it. Again, with the federal loans, if you are offered both of them, so say you get the $5,500 and you don't want that unsubsidized loan, you do not have to take them. You can take out just the subsidized portion. It is totally up to you. So 3 key factors you want to make sure you remember is don't underestimate your options. Never assume you're too poor or too rich to get financial aid. And then don't become overwhelmed by the price of attending college. Like we discussed before with the A, B, and C schools, it's not necessarily what it seems. It might cost more money to go to a private college, but it doesn't mean that you can't get the financial need and financial assistance that you need because they have those bigger, again, alumni offices, foundations that they can give those additional funds out. So special circumstances. So if for some reason, so with the financial aid application, the government uses what's called the prior year. So for anyone that's starting next fall, you would be using your 2018 tax returns. All right. Anybody that's starting in January, you're going to use your 2017 taxes. If you have a special circumstance where maybe there was a death in the family or mom or dad lost their job because company closed, something like that. If you have any sort of an extenuating circumstance that may merit us to look at your application again, all you need to do is come in and talk to our office. So just because you fill out the FAFSA application and it says all you're getting is the loans, it doesn't mean you can't come in and talk to us. If you come talk to us and you say, yes, my dad lost his job, so he's not making all that money that he was making before, we'll ask you to fill out a few forms, you turn in a little bit extra paperwork, and then we can reevaluate that for you and see if we can't get you some of that free money. All right, so don't be discouraged by the number that's given to you. You can always come in and talk to us if you feel you have a special circumstance. If you need help with the FAFSA application, we do offer a free FAFSA workshop every Thursday here on our Appleton campus. It's going to be in room G149. If you stop by our financial aid table just down the hall here, we do have flyers for that. You and students and parents are both welcome at this workshop. You come in, we'll walk you through the entire process from start to finish of getting that application done. And then otherwise, you can feel free to stop in our financial aid office, which is room E118, anytime during our normal business hours, Monday through Thursday from 8 to 6. And then on Fridays, we're open from 8 to 4.